Hey y'all, who dat and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak. This is a preview edition of Inside Black and Gold, the first preview edition of the 2025 season. We are still in the stage of the season where previews are exciting to talk about, and it's week one. It is real football. I am fired up about it. I'm fired up to talk about real football. We've been talking about imaginary kind of make-believe football. No, I mean, it's been real, but it's been inconsequential to the record of the season. And now we have actual football to talk about. It's fun. And here's the thing. I don't have a ton new to say on this episode. We've talked this all to death for a month, 2 months, 3 months, forever. It's time to actually go on the field and play. So this is going to be a fun episode. This first segment, I'm going to break down, okay, what's the latest with Chase Young? What's the latest with the injury report? And I'll talk about the mood in the locker room. Where are people at? You know, there's a lot of negativity outside the building. Is that the same inside the building? How do we feel about it? Let's talk about a player the Saints signed, a player the Saints waived again. Also, I want to hear a take from Deuce McAllister. We'll react to that. Also kind of get into Jonathan Gannon, Brendan Staley have kind of an interesting connection. So I want to break that down here from Brandon. Second segment, we're going to have Tyler Drake, reporter covering the Cardinals, break down what to expect from Arizona. And then the final segment, we're going to do X Factors, baby. We're going to get it done. But all right, let's hit a quick break and then dive right in. Again, Inside Black and Gold, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Otherwise, stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak coming at you solo temporarily. We will have Steve Geller on here for the second and third segments of this program, but I wanted to come on here by myself so I could talk to you about injury reports. We'll have a good bit more in this segment. But the first thing we have to get through, okay, what is the injury status for the Saints? Well, I'm going to pop it up to my left here for the YouTube audience. And, you know, if you're watching, if you're just imagining, it's a short list. It is not a long list, right? The Saints have 5 players on their list. The Cardinals have 4 after adding a couple more players today. No one of particular consequence. None of them are starters. There's nothing really to write home about. On the Saints side, not true. 2 of the biggest names on this defense are also on this list in Alontae Taylor and in Chase Young, who suffered a calf injury midway through Wednesday's practice. Now, Kellen Moore downplayed it, said he didn't expect it to be significant. Chase Young did talk in the locker room briefly today. Wouldn't go so far as to say he was going to play or he wasn't going to play. You know, he kind of said, "Hey, I'm not going to talk about it." But he was asked if, "Hey, do you think this is going to be a long-term issue?" And he said, "Quote, hell no." That was his quote. So clearly not something that he expects to be a major issue, but I think anytime you're going into week one of the season, it's going to be the same thing with Alontae Taylor. You just want to avoid a scenario where you rush back for week one, and then by week 4, you're sitting on the bench because you re-aggravated something or you heard something else trying to compensate for an injured body part. So like that's the key. And if you can't say definitively, yes, we're fine, like it's going to be okay, then you have to play it safe. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Saints sit him out with Alontae. You know, maybe you meter his reps a little bit. He's going to push to play. But, you know, I asked him the other day and he said he was well ahead of that timeline. And anytime you're well ahead of what the doctors have said is your timeline to return, you're going to have to do some lobbying to get them on your side. So it's going to be something to watch. But otherwise, really not a ton of injury news to report. Christian Boyd was upgraded to full after being limited on Wednesday. He's dealing with a hand injury suffered in the preseason finale, not something that was expected to keep him out, so it doesn't look like he's going to be kept out. You also have Jordan Howden on that list, limited with an oblique issue. So that's kind of the storyline. I actually think the Saints are in pretty good shape from a health perspective right now. All things considered, you've had a few people land on IR. The backup offensive line is an issue, and injuries kind of ravaged that part of the roster. But all things considered, only having 2 players with like injury question marks at any week of the season is a decent situation. So we'll have to wait and see. If Chase Young can't go, that's a problem. The Saints are going to have big questions to answer. I think you'll probably end up seeing a good bit more of Carl Granderson if that's the case, in the sense that I think Cam Jordan is kind of your run side, strong side, edge, outside linebacker, and Carl is the other one, and they're going to kind of flip reps, and Carl and Chase would be your kind of pass rushing tandem. But you're just going to have to wait and see. The Saints did sign Garrett Nelson, another big dude, 6'4", 245 pounds. He spent some time with the Broncos, with the Dolphins, never did get into a game. He's only been on practice squad. So not a guy that you're expecting to be an impact player for you, but I think that kind of tells you, hey, you're thinking about depth right now, and you'll keep going. The Saints, to make room for Garrett, they waived a familiar name, and that is Hunter Deckers, who is well on his way to winning the JT Barrett cut over and over and over again award. This is now his 6th roster transaction by my count. His 3rd time getting waived. So he's got this process down. I don't think he's going to be moving out of his apartment. I don't think he's even going to be taking all that much stuff out of his locker. I fully expect him to be back on the Saints roster probably by this time next week, and you'll just have to wait and see. But he is very much the JT Barrett of this team. But that's it. That's really all the news, right? Like, until we get into a game and there's stuff to talk about, it's really not a ton to talk about. You're kind of just warming over the same topics of conversations. We did talk to the coordinators today. The Cardinals are obviously an intriguing team, but Kellen Moore will be the first to tell you, like, yeah, we're going to scout what they did last year. We're going to scout what some of these players did, but there's going to be a lot of unscouted looks and a lot of stuff that you're going to have to adjust to on the fly. So you have to kind of bake that into your game plan anyway. There's some really interesting things this offense does with its tight ends. They put 3 tight ends on the field all the time, or at least they have, right? And again, you're kind of assuming that the plan they had last year is going to be the plan they have this year. And if that's the case, great. If it's not the case, then suddenly you did all this preparation for something they're not doing. But they have run a lot of 13 personnel. They just load up and create extra gaps in the run game. And that makes things a little complicated for the run defense. So Brandon Staley's scheme it's going to be interesting to see how they account for that. On the offensive side, there's obviously a lot of questions around Spencer Rattler, around the run game, around the offensive line, around the wide receivers. Can they stay healthy? Can they have an impact? Devon Villay sounds like he's going to have a package of plays. I asked Doug Nussmeier about that today, and he kind of just said, hey, he's a really smart player. He's picking up things fast, and he's going to have a role. It's just not going to be the final form of that role in week 1, and you can't expect it to be. He got here a week ago. But he does open up things in this pass game that other guys just couldn't do. And they're very happy to have him on this roster for a lot of reasons. But let's just hear from Deuce McAllister really quick. This is him kind of talking about, okay, what's this offense going to look like in week 1 for you? And what do you need?
Deuce, I get asked this a lot, and so I'll throw it to you. I only got one answer for him, and I always tell him it's going to be a lot of Alvin Kamara running and catching. But what is this Saints offense going to look like Sunday against the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of Alvin running and catching, but I do feel like that they have some other weapons. I mean, the question is, can you get Alvin in space, and can you get those other weapons in space? And so the opportunities will be there. But, the one thing that you see when you go back and look at the film from this preseason, this team can be explosive. My question for this team is, can you go 10-plus plays and be able to punch it into the end zone? Because you've shown that you can pick up yardage, but you've also shown that you will have a mistake, whether it's a turnover, whether it's a penalty, whether it's instead of being second and short, I have a penalty that negates that first down, and it puts me back at 2nd and 20 or 2nd and 15, and now I can't overcome that. And I end up having to either punt or kick a long field goal. For this team to get to where it wants to go, they've got to hit on explosive plays. And all of them don't have to be, hey, it's great to have plus 40 type plays. But if they can hit on, and I haven't put a number out there as far as runs and passes to have explosive plays, but there has to be a number. There has to be a number of explosive plays of plus 15 or plus 20. There has to be a number of explosive runs of plus 10, plus 20 for this team to be successful, because very few games, and Mike, you know this, very few games will you be able to win by kicking 4 to 5 field goals and no touchdowns.
Yeah, good stuff from Deuce there. And I agree. I agree on a lot of it. Like, you need to take advantage of the situations you have to score. One thing I'll add is, I agree with him that you will need some chunk plays in this game, but I don't think you want to be hunting chunk plays, right? I don't think you want to be hunting explosive plays. You need to run your offense and extend drives, and then these chunk plays, these chunk opportunities, these explosive opportunities will come naturally because defenses will have to adjust to what you're doing, not the other way around. The Cardinals are also going to disguise a ton of their coverages. So there's going to be opportunities that, hey, maybe they are not up to speed on their defense. Maybe they blow a coverage here or there, but you're going to have to take advantage of that in the flow of the offense. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be seeing a lot of shot plays run for this Saints offense. Like, it's got to happen in phase with the offense. But I do agree, like, a very consistent thing we saw throughout camp was extended drives, 10, 15 play drives that did not end in points. And you just can't, you can't win games that way. You can't. If you extend a drive, you got to finish it off. And so we'll see how that goes. One more thing I do want to hit before we move on to the kind of crossover behind enemy line segment. We don't really have a name for it. Brandon Staley, Jonathan Gannon. There's a lot of coaching connections that exist in the NFL. Like, there's a lot of, hey, we know each other from here. We know each other from here. There's not a lot of, hey, we played AAU basketball against each other as 10-year-olds, but that is the case. Jonathan Gannon and Brandon Staley, they go all the way back to Cleveland, Ohio. Again, they were competitors on the basketball court. They both played point guard. Staley's team initially, dominated, but Jonathan Gannon, I think the athleticism kind of rose to the top as they got older, and it kind of became clear as things went on that Jonathan was the athlete. They played against each other in high school. Staley went on to the University of Dayton. He played quarterback. Gannon went to Louisville and played safety. Was a good safety. I think Brandon may be overstating how good he was. We're going to hear from him in a second, but it goes and it all went to the NFL. Like, Jonathan Gannon was a major part in how Brandon Staley got his first coaching job. So these guys know each other well. They like each other. This is Brandon Staley talking about that connection.
Yeah, it's one of those, we've come a long way, since playing each other on the basketball court in the fourth grade. So he's one of the best I know. He means a lot to me, and I'm just so happy for him. Not surprised at all where he is, because I've seen it for a long time. So he's done a hell of a job coaching and leading that football team, and on Sunday, it's going to be one of those special moments that we get to share together. But at the same time, we're there to win. So
one of the more innovative schemes right now, just like the way they use their safeties and disguise and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan's one of the top coaches defensively in the league, but he's not just a defensive coach. I mean, I think the way they play offensively fits, very well with how, he believes in leading a team too. And I think on special teams with Jeff Rogers, who I had the chance to work with, Jay's brother, they're very, very specific on special teams too. So he's just a complete coach. And again, very happy for his success.
You guys have never had a chance to work together, right?
We have not.
But just a lot of conversations.
We worked together without working together, we both benefited from, I think that love for the game. We've always loved the game ever since we were kids. And, to see him go out and do what he's done, to see him, get off to coaching from the beginning. What a lot of people don't know about him is he would never be a coach if he hadn't gotten hurt. He would have been one of the top DBs in the league. He was a hell of a player at Louisville. And that's what a lot of people don't know because he's too humble. But if he had never gotten hurt, he would have been a pro player for a long time. And he probably would never be a pro coach because he'd have made too much money doing that. So, yeah, man, it's just, it's great to have a friend and, somebody that means a lot to you that's doing the same thing you're doing.
All right. So, I mean, I don't have anything else to add to that. Just thought it was interesting. Anytime you have coaches who go back that far, just kind of an intriguing thing. Also, one other thing to note, and this was kind of brought to my attention this week, Jonathan Gannon hasn't done so hot in games against Kellen Moore offenses in his career. Obviously, Kellen Moore was with the Cowboys. Jonathan Gannon was the defensive coordinator with the Eagles. So these guys played each other twice a year. The Kellen Moore offense faced the Jonathan Gannon defense twice a year, and Kellen Moore got the better of that 3 times. In 2021, the Cowboys won both times. Game 1, 41-21. Game 2, 51-26. So Kellen Moore's offenses averaged 45.5 points a game against the Eagles defense in 2021. And this was a good defense. This was not a pushover Eagles defense. They went to the Super Bowl a year later. And in that season, the Eagles did beat the Cowboys 26-17 in their first matchup, but then the Cowboys dropped 40 again in the second matchup in week 16. So in 4 games of Kellen Moore's offense going against Jonathan Gannon's defense, Kellen Moore's offense dropped 40 points. So, hey, I don't know. I don't think that this Saints offense has quite the talent on it that those Cowboys offenses did. But, hey, tradition is tradition. Let's see if we can keep it going. But, all right, Inside Black and Gold, I am Jeff Nowak, coming at you ahead of week 1, our first preview edition of this here podcast. And that's what we're going to get into. I'm going to hit a break, come back with Steve Geller and Tyler Drake to break down what to expect from the Arizona Cardinals, the 6.5 point favorites. Not many people are giving the Saints much of a chance to compete in this game, but let's hear what Tyler has to say. And man, who knows? Maybe the Saints can buck some odds. But all right, who dat? Go Saints. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Otherwise, stick around. We'll be right back. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here alongside Steve Geller. As always, getting you ready for week 1, Cardinals at Saints. And this is the start of our crossover episodes. Last year, we quit on them midway through the season. Too depressing, but we're going to do them until they don't make sense to do anymore. And we got a great guest, Tyler Drake, Cardinals reporter for ArizonaSports.com. 98.7, the flagship out there in good old Arizona, who I just learned is on California time right now. It's an important detail. Half the year there on a different time from everybody else. Also the co-host of the Cardinals Corner podcast. Check it out if you want to go behind enemy lines. How you doing, Tyler? Thanks for joining us.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to talk a little Saints-Cardinals. And yeah, week 1. Thank the Lord it's finally here. Just real football. Let's make it count. Let's have an exciting game. That's where I want to start.
Yeah, as much as I love some preseason football, and we were out there for the preseason last year, we did see the Cardinals. And yeah, so why don't you just kind of give us the lowdown? Like, I feel like week 1 is kind of the biggest mystery of honestly any sport, because it's just, there's so much that changes between seasons in the NFL. You have new pieces, you have new elements on offense. I don't think the Cardinals changed coordinators, so at least there's some consistency there. But what are the vibes in Cardinals land right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the I like to say the reclamation projects over the last 2 years have been really about kind of building that foundation, getting the right pieces in, some of the younger pieces, some draft pieces to really build up. Now it's time to go put the wins on the paper. I think it's been a really good feel-good story. The old regime, they've definitely that one's dead and buried. They've really moved on from them, but now you got to go translate that to wins. And that's been the thing that's been missing these last 2 years. But this year, I mean, they come in the offseason, it was really evident. Like, they had to update the defense really across the board. I think defensive line especially, and they did that. They added Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, who is a returnee and just a monster of a human being. So is Dalvin Tomlinson, just some huge dudes. Pair them with a guy like Darius Robinson, who's looking for a year 2 bounce back. Offensively, yeah, not a lot has changed. A lot of continuity there. I think the biggest addition really would be backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett this offseason from an outsider coming in. Beyond that, I mean, it's Trey McBride's show. It's James Conner's show. I think Marvin Harrison is expected to take that year 2 leap. He's bulked up. His connection with Kyler looks like it has taken that next step. But like he told us yesterday, they've got to see it on the field when the games count. So a lot of eyeballs are going to be there. But then you look in the secondary, and a lot of youth. That's the big thing there. Obviously, you've got Budda Baker in that safeties room, and he rounds it out with Jalen Thompson, and you've got a young guy in Rabbit. But the cornerbacks room is really leaning on some young guys. Garrett Williams is probably CB1 in my opinion, can play nickel, can play outside, can play just about everywhere. And then you've got this rotation of guys in Max Melton and rookie Will Johnson. Will Johnson, if he can get off on a fast start, I think he's a guy that can stay in that lineup for years to come, because he really does have that knack, and that ball just, you can tell he's a ball hawk waiting to go snag something. So there's a lot of youth, but I think they're very comfortable playing their young guys. In the last couple of years, that's been the case, but now it's really, you've got to show it. And I'm very much looking to see if Kyler can put it together throughout the entire season. There's really no issues in the beginning of the first half of the year, but when it comes to after the bye, what does he look like? That's kind of the big question coming out of Cardinals for me.
You talk about Trey McBride, and for me, that's definitely the huge standout of this offense, no doubt about it. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because he plays in Arizona, doesn't get enough of the credit or the recognition. I feel like this guy should be like all over ESPN, Madden covers, things like that, and just doesn't seem to get enough love.
Yeah, exactly. And as much as he's a good dude on the field, he's a really good dude off the field. I mean, he does a lot of charity work out here too. So all around a really good person. And, don't knock his blocking ability. He really loves to be a good blocker. And I think that helps him get open more times than not, is because you really don't know what he is. He's a complete tight end. You don't know if he's going to block. You don't know if he's going to open up in the middle. So he's the ultimate security blanket for Kyler. Kyler Murray, he loves his tight ends when he can get them. And he's got an ultimate premium dude right now. So, it's the sky's the limit. I think he's got to find the end zone more. I think if he finds the end zone a little bit more, that gets a little bit more spotlight on him. But the spotlight's pretty bright on a guy who really was at one point behind Zach Ertz, and now he's just he's the distant memory for the Cardinals now.
Yeah, I do think the touchdowns is what he has 5 over the last 2 years. And then you're talking about like 100 catch, 1,000-yard receiver with averaging 2.5 touchdowns. I think that's where it doesn't necessarily compute for people.
Yeah.
But I remember watching him at the Senior Bowl a few years back, and one of the days I came away, I was like, he's the best player on the field out here. I don't know how that translates to the NFL, but it's like pretty clear that, if you watch, like, the scouting part of that was not a mirage. Like, he is an elite pass catching tight end. And the only question is, okay, does he have the size to hold up and block it? I think you kind of addressed it there. Just go into defense. You mentioned Calais Campbell, and one of the only guys in the NFL that can make the Saints roster look young on the defensive side of the ball. Cam Jordan is a spring chicken compared to Calais. He's 39 years old. That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Just had a birthday.
And still playing at a high level. Josh Sweat is another guy that Kellen Moore is very familiar with. Obviously, they were both with the Eagles last year. But I guess what is the identity of this defense? And because we've talked a lot this week about Budda Baker, and he's just all over the place, and the Cardinals do a really good job of disguising coverages. But what do you expect to be kind of the identity of this defense? Is it going to be a blitzing defense? Is it going to be kind of a front four stuff to run? Like, how do you kind of perceive that?
Yeah, I think they would love to be a front four. I think they would love to kind of emulate what Philly kind of did last year, late in the season. I think that's really where it starts. But then, like you just mentioned, the heat-seeking missile in Budda Baker, you move him anywhere and he's going to be a problem. Coming off a career year last year, if you're still getting that much more out of a guy who's an all-pro as it is, it's the sky's the limit for him with a roster that is so much more talented than it was last year, the year before. This team is very much, they just want to win in the trenches. And that's been something that Gannon and Monty Osborne have continued to talk about. Time and time again, it's just been an evolution. I think when they got to town, it was Lecky Fotu who was a starter at some point. Now we're to the point where it's all of these guys who have these starting reps under their belt. So it's very much win at the line of scrimmage, be that physical, dominant team that makes the other side just kind of pack it up.
What are the expectations for year 3 with Jonathan Gannon? I know we talk a ton about that. This team plays hard for their head coach, but just overall that the West is kind of a toss up for me. There's no really clear top dog in that division, but really tough competition. Just wondering what's expectations for, I guess, media and maybe Cardinals fans.
Yeah, I think playoffs is the expectation. You've got to get to the playoffs at this point. They had flashes last year early on, and the bye week happened. And that's, again, where I go back to, the offense has to continue to be consistent throughout the rest of the season. It's on Kyler, that's on everybody else, but it begins with your quarterback. But yeah, I think that's the thing is you saw a flash last year until Seattle came and kind of knocked things around you after the bye week. You cannot have another floundering 8-9, 9-8 season. You've got to make an effort, double-digit wins, get into the postseason. And not only that, you've got to go be competitive. Because the last time the Cardinals were in the postseason, 2021, it was one of the ugliest games against the Rams. It was over before it even started. It felt like doesn't really count as a playoff game, in my opinion, just because of how rough it was. So that's the taste in everybody's mouth. And Kyler, was at the helm of that. So it's a lot on Gannon, but it's even more on Kyler of, hey, get him back to the promised land and actually look like a team that deserves to be there.
Yeah, and just kind of going off that, football fans notoriously even keeled. They don't have whiplash takes at all. It's so it's so measured and calculated. But especially for a quarterback, one of the things the Saints are in a situation right now that you can have low expectations and be okay with that from the head coach quarterback side because they don't have the quarterback. And until you get that guy where it's like, well, we can win this with this guy, you have kind of a longer leash as a regime. Well, the Cardinals don't have that luxury because they drafted Kyler number 1 overall. He was the offensive rookie of the year. It was kind of decided early on, like, oh, no, this is the guy you can win with. It's now on the team to build around him. But it hasn't always gone well. Like, he has the Pro Bowls, he has the All-Pro nods, but the results haven't been there. So I'm just curious, like, what is kind of which direction are the winds blowing as far as Kyler is concerned? Because obviously there's a lot of memeability with Kyler. He's small. Yeah. He's got the video game stuff, and it was written into his contract, and then they took it out that he had to have like the film hours. And so I guess when you're committing to, and they gave him the contract, so it's not like they have really any choice but to roll with him. But what are the vibes around Kyler right now?
Yeah, I think if he can't put it together this year, they're going to have to make a tough decision. They're going to have to at least look at it because it's year 7. He's got 1 playoff appearance and a bad one at that. As a franchise quarterback, that's just not going to cut it in the NFL. And I think he'd be the first person to say that too. I think he knows that he has not lived up to what I think he could at this point. And obviously, he's had some awards in the beginning, but I mean, the last couple of years have been rough, and you've got to throw the torn ACL in there. That's always going to impact you. That's something you have to mention when you talk about Kyler now. But now he's moved on that. He's like 2 years. He talked about it just recently about how he's now feeling really like himself and not as much like he can just go and play. So now it's the time, like, let's see you go do it. Can you run a little bit more? Can you add some more design runs? Can you just be more of a threat that way than you have been in recent years? I think he could. But if he doesn't get it done this year, decisions are going to have to be some tough conversations are going to be had because at the end of the day, this isn't the guy that they drafted. This is the guy the previous regime drafted. So I do think that if they do have to go in a different direction, the front office and regime they have now, they're staying put. But I think after that, some personnel could be moving on.
What's the feeling like with the Arizona run game, taking Kyler Murray out the mix, but you got the veteran and James Conner, and then still the young buck and Trey Benson there? Yeah.
I mean, James Conner, it's his show until further notice. He's an old dog, but he seems like he could run with some of the youngest ones out there. And I mean, he's going to get his yards, but everybody this offseason, training camp, preseason has made sure to talk about Trey Benson. I think he's going to get a lot more reps. Maybe it's not so much touches, but he's going to be involved more in this offense, maybe pass pro, but he could be a factor there. I mean, in fantasy football, go get him as a handcuff because he's a premium dude, especially with James Conner. Potentially could miss some games because that's just kind of his thing. He did play all 17 last year though. So good stuff there from him. But Trey Benson is kind of the heir apparent in waiting. So he can hit a home run either through the pass game or in the run game. So it's just really, what does he look like in year 2? Because a lot of people, I mean, Kyler, James Conner, Trey McBride, a lot of these guys have mentioned him without even us asking about him. So he's clearly impressing people. So now can he put it on paper when the games count?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when I saw the depth chart because I was really hoping to be able to yell "bam," and we're not going to be. I don't think that's going to happen. But
RB4,
he's there. Hopefully someday soon we'll be yelling "bam." The other guy that Saints fans might be yelling about, Blake Gillikin. How's he doing? Are we ready for the Blake Gillikin revenge game? Is that what's going to happen?
He's underrated, man. Out here, like, a lot of people get a lot of love, but he's one of the underrated dudes out here. And when he came to town, it was very much like, it's Andy Lee's been out here. I mean, there's been some big name punters out here. So him coming to town, it's like, all right, what are we going to see here? And he has been everything that this team's needed. I mean, Jeff Rodgers, I think he's the special teams coordinator, has talked very highly of him. I think he slid in right away. And the dude can put the ball in the air. And I got to talk to him actually at a golf tournament, and just a really good dude too. So rooting for him to have a good game, and a little homecoming for him. So I'm sure he'll be hitting some a little harder than normal.
The Saints haven't found a punter since he left.
Right.
3 rookies. They're like, man, maybe we should just kept Thomas. Maybe we should just kept Blake. It's a whole thing. But anyway, yeah, good to hear.
When you look at this Arizona team too, for you, what would stand out, I guess, as maybe a weakness of this squad?
I think the depth at cornerback.
Okay.
So Sean Murphy-Bunting, Starling Thomas, they're done for the year. Sean Murphy-Bunting didn't even get a chance at training camp, preseason, anything like that. He was on the NFI. Starling Thomas, training camp, tears his ACL. He's done. So that really leaves a young room, like I talked about. Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Will Johnson as kind of that starting trio. Beyond that, it's some young guys. Denzel Burke's a rookie. Elijah Jones, really a redshirt freshman after last year. So he's in year 2, but now he's healthy. A little bit lengthier dude, but he needs his reps. It's young. It's young. So if another guy goes down in the top half of that room, there's going to be some eyeballs on what's going to happen, and maybe some quarterbacks can exploit some things there. So I'd say depth at cornerback. Let's see what else. I'd say another thing. I'd like to see what the inside linebacker room looks like. Mac Wilson taking over the mic. He's gonna have the green dot for the first time. What's it look like next to him? Because he's been kind of that hybrid pass rush inside linebacker. So is it Akeem Davis-Gaither? Is it a guy like Owen Papo? Is it Cody Simon, a rookie? So some question marks there that is there enough playmaking next to Mac Wilson to really keep this defense going in the middle of the formation?
It seemed just looking at the depth chart, I see a lot of red, I see a lot of IRs and O's.
Oh yeah.
Has this been a kind of painful preseason to watch from a health perspective? Obviously the first round pick is out for the year. That's not something you want to see.
Yeah, not out for the year. He's
not. Okay.
First 4 games at least. So he's designated to return, but on IR or on PUP reserve, whatever you want to call it, to start. But it honestly, it looks rough, but for the depth that they've built in, they've actually kind of gotten through pretty healthy. And I know that's an oxymoron because you just mentioned all the people that were on IR at PUP. But when you look at it, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Justin Jones on IR. He really was on the back end of that roster anyway for me. I think younger guys have played up ahead of him. I think it's more of a financial thing now for him. Bilal Nichols on PUP. He was another guy that I think was more on the back end of that roster to begin with. So not a big loss there. Walter Nolan III. Yeah, that's tough. First round pick again. Darius Robinson last year had a calf injury and had a similar thing and only played 6 games. So we'll have to see where he's at. But again, like I said, the D-line depth, beyond the 3 that I mentioned with Dalvin and Calais and Darius, you've got LJ Collier and Dante Stills, who are coming off career years last year. Dante Stills might be the most underrated Cardinal on the defense. I think he was in that top 10 mix of D tackles for run stop win rate last year. So just one of those kind of under the radar dudes that I think really can help bridge the gap between when Nolan can come back. So I think they're fine. Obviously cornerback, that'd be the biggest issue, I think, of the injuries they have right now. But again, they've got some depth. If it happens one or 2 more times, that's when I think people need to start worrying.
How does this defense handle the QB scrambling is a question I have.
Yeah, I think that's where the heat-seeking missile Budda Baker comes in. I think that's where Mac Wilson comes in more. That's kind of that thing I said with the inside linebackers. Who's going to be that playmaker that can maybe be that spy or be that guy that's watching a Spencer Rattler or whoever's out there running the show? So it's going to be something definitely to watch because there is some new bodies in there. Like Kaiser White's no longer on this team. So how do they move forward and not only get the playmaking done, but also lead on the field? That's going to be something too, is can Matt get everybody where they need to be right away?
For Saints fans going into this game, if there's someone that maybe they're not familiar with on this Arizona team, one of the bigger names, like who do you think could be like a surprise X factor for the Cards in this matchup?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, I'm going to throw one out, and it might be 0 catches, 0 targets, but the way he looked at preseason and training camp, Zay Jones.
Okay.
This guy, underutilized last year, had the suspension last year, really wasn't a part of the offense. But this year, I think he very much could be back in the mix as that wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 2. Michael Wilson just had a kid, so we'll have to see what his availability is going to look like this weekend. I'm assuming he's going to play, but congrats to him. But with Zay Jones, the way that he and Kyler were connecting through training camp and some preseason, just look like another level. And that, I think, really could be the window is like, yeah, Marvin's going to get looks. Trey's going to get looks. Who's going to be the guy that's going to benefit on other people watching those dudes do their thing? And I think Zay could be one of those guys.
I feel like Zay Jones, the guy I've heard that said about for like 10 years in the NFL at this point. It's just like, oh man, Zay Jones could be that guy. We'll see. Hopefully this is the time. I do like the name.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
He's a big dude though. He's 6'2", 200. Like he's like, I think if the Saints are going to struggle this year, it's going to be defending bigger bodied wide receivers because they just don't have that physical corner. That's why
Harrison scares me for sure.
Right. Well, and yeah, I mean the Cardinals in general just have a lot of big bodied guys they're going to throw the ball to. Tyler, where can people find your work? What do you have online right now?
Yeah, really all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok at T-Drake for sports. It's the number 4. And then ArizonaSports.com. You can find all my written work there. And then, X, T-Drake for sports as well. Yeah, really everywhere on social media you can find me. But yeah, all the Cardinals, I'm there every day. Every practice report you need, you can find it there.
Good stuff. All right, Tyler Drake, Cardinals reporter for ArizonaSports.com, 98.7. The Flagship, also co-host of Cardinals Corner. That's a podcast. Thanks so much for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Happy to jump on.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks again to Tyler for coming on. Tyler Drake, go check out his work. And I think the Cardinals, it's funny. Like I mentioned, like the Saints are in a situation where you can win 2 games and we won't even really be talking about firing the coach or like, you'll just say like, hey, we got information. We got a high draft pick that, this is a means to an end. Kellen Moore's still the guy. You would have hoped for better, but that's where you are. If the Cardinals go out and win 4 games, you might fire Jonathan Gannon. Like that's the gift and the curse of having that top pick quarterback is you don't have the luxury of saying, we don't have the guy. Either he's the guy or you lose your job, right? Because you almost never see a coach survive a whiffed number 1 overall pick. Almost never. The GM didn't draft him, so the GM will survive. So I just think it's interesting. Like if the Cards, like the Saints are playing with house money all year, every win they get is going to be like, wow, good for them. The opponents come to play the Saints. You can call it a trap game. You can call it whatever. Every team that comes in here and loses to the Saints, whether it's reasonable or not, it's going to be alarm bells going off, which is kind of fun. Like you get to play spoiler all year. And sure, maybe they win more games than we expect and they end up being a playoff contender. They get on that fringe. But like, I don't know. I think it's kind of a fun reality to be in where every team that you beat is going to be like, no, the sky is falling. It's like when the Saints went out to Carolina last year and lost. That was the true indicator that things were real bad. Even after a 6-game losing streak, it was that loss that really were like, we got to do something.
Get rid of the coach.
The Saints are going to be that team this year that if they win a few games and upset people, if they win this game on Sunday, Cardinals fans are going to be like, what the hell just happened? And anyway, I find that amusing.
The odds makers, we know the season win total they're not high on. Going into this even game week 1 against Arizona, the Cards come in as 6.5-point road favorites. That to me seemed like an awfully high number.
I mean, it is, but it's also that's what I mean. Like, there's no expectations for the Saints.
No,
0.
Right.
Like, to the point that I didn't even know it was possible in the NFL. Like, and I think it is a bit hyperbolic. Like, I don't think the Saints are that far away from some of these other teams, independent of the quarterback. Right. And I mean, and that's important.
All the time now, Tyler was like, oh, another middling 9-win season. It's like, man, we'd kill for a 9-win season.
I mean, we did just have a 9-win season. They've gotten to 9 wins a couple times, but that hasn't been satisfactory. Now, but like, it's just funny to hear people talk about the Saints and talk about this team as if it's the worst roster that's ever happened in the NFL. And it's not. This roster isn't that bad. It's all about the quarterback.
Absolutely right. You nailed it.
And so we'll see. But hey, I am hopeful that at least a couple times this season, we'll get to see opposing fan bases freak the hell out because they lost to the Saints, because it's going to happen. Like the Saints are going to win 4 or 5 games. It's going to be like, I don't think that 2 wins. I've seen people projecting 2 wins. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see a 2-win team.
Man, I hope let that be gospel right there. I hope you're right.
You'd almost prefer a 2-win team though.
No.
Well, no, because if you're going to, winning 4 games versus winning 2 is not that different. The only real difference is you pretty much guarantee yourself a top pick. So like you would rather win 2 than 4, but this team is not going to avoid trying to win to get to 2 wins. And I think the only way you only win 2 games is if you're trying to win 2 games. So we'll see. But this has been kind of a depressing add-on to that interview. It's just where we are, though. And like, that's just me kind of reflecting everything that's being said about this team. Like, there is no confidence external outside of that building that the Saints are going to do anything this year. Like, they are being very confidently predicted as the worst team in the NFL, which seems unfair, but that's where you are. It's just the reality. Accept it.
No, there's the biggest notion, like you said, is there was with the quarterbacks, and everyone saying basically, could they start on another team anywhere else in the league right now?
Probably not. I don't think it's even that close.
Maybe Indy, Danny Jones over there.
I mean, they have Anthony Richardson, and they started Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. So it's not like they don't have options. It shows Daniel Jones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there is another team in the NFL that would start either of the Saints quarterbacks. That doesn't mean they wouldn't roster them and have him as a developmental guy, but I don't think they would start either guy over Justin Fields. Maybe like a guy like Shuck, and you draft him and you have him behind Justin Fields, maybe.
I got you.
And have him take over. But
yeah, I'm just not a big Fields believer.
I'm not either, but they went and signed him as a They went and signed a quarterback as a bridge for a young quarterback they decided not to draft. Right.
Right.
Like, Justin Fields has a bridge contract, but no quarterback to bridge to. So that's just where it is. But anyway,
it could be worse.
Excited yet? I
am. I cannot wait.
But again, like I said, like, I'm still going to root for this team to win, and if they win, it's going to be exciting. Like, if they start like 2-2, it will force everyone to kind of grapple with, like, maybe they're not the worst team in the NFL, and that's what I want. That's all I hope for.
I'm ready to dust. I got my old gold Deuce McAllister jersey ready for Sunday.
Whew. I dig it. But all right, let's wrap this up. We'll come back, talk about X factors, what could swing this matchup. Got some thoughts, got some ideas. We'll see. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. This is Inside Black and Gold, our preview edition, week 1, coming at you. Saints-Cardinals on Sunday. Who dat? Stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller. It is week 1. It is officially our first X Factors episode of the season. I know people love these so much. I actually don't. I've never heard whether anyone likes them or doesn't like them. If people didn't like them, I would expect they would have told me by now. So I'm going to take the silence as acceptance in this scenario. But yeah, so we're getting ready for Saints Cardinals. The way we do this is we try to pick one X factor or maybe 2 X factors each on offense and defense for the Saints, guys who could theoretically swing the matchup. Now, when you're talking about a 6.5 point home underdog, swinging the matchup might not be as easy as it once sounded. But we're going to do it anyway. So Steve, let's start with you on offense. What is your offensive X factor? What do you think, if this happens, the Saints' chances to win this game go up dramatically?
It's pretty easy pickings right here for me. I mean, the quarterback position, Spencer Rattler, what are we going to see in this debut week 1 of him fully owning this offense? Yeah, he got a shake at it last year due to injuries, filling in when 0-6, everybody's talked about that. But now we've mentioned it. There's no excuses around him. He's got a healthy lineup around him. All the pieces are in place, except for a guy like Taysom Hill isn't around. But other than that, you have your receivers. You got Alvin Kamara, a healthy offensive line, minus Trevor Penning. So right now for me, I just want to see an effective, confident quarterback, Spencer Rattler, being able to lead this team, and not just on those long extended drives that we talk about. Get a touchdown, please. I need to see these touchdown drives resulting in 6 points. That's just going to be so key, being able to finish. The biggest thing for Spencer Rattler, finishing drives this season.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you on a lot of that. And I'm going to go Spencer Rattler as well, but it's a little more granular. And I talked about this on the mini episode I posted yesterday. I did a little driving home episode and kind of went into a little mini rant about what I think Spencer has to do. And I did ask Spencer about it. So let's just hear what he has to say, and then I'll get into it.
An emphasis has there been on, just kind of staying out of 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, like having positive plays early in drives. And obviously, there was a lot of sacks last year. Like, how much of an emphasis has it been of just kind of stacking positive plays?
Yeah, on top of that and protecting the ball, those are probably the two biggest things. Moving the chains, staying out of 3rd and longs. It's hard. You're in 3rd and 9+ in this league. It's low percentage you're going to get it. So, getting positive plays on 1st and 2nd down, running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever we got to do. That's what we have to do to give ourselves a chance.
With the way you use your legs, has that been something that you've worked on in terms of a plan, or is that more kind of reactive? Like, can you go in with a plan of like, hey, if I don't like this look, I can go. Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, good question. A little bit of both, I would say. Kind of just like a natural feel for it, and then obviously you want to pick your moments to do it.
Yeah, and so to me, that's it. It's not necessarily, can Spencer do this? Can he do that? Can Spencer avoid trying to play hero ball, which is just something that's in your nature as a quarterback who's been, since the beginning of your high school career, the guy who could do whatever he wanted at any time, right? Now, in order for this team to win, you need your quarterback to give you a baseline, and that baseline is, hey, we can't afford big sacks. We can't afford negative plays on 1st and 2nd down if we want to control the ball, put up a number on offense, and allow our defense to be put in positive situations that they can succeed in, right? Like, if you're constantly chasing on the scoreboard because you're punting on your first 3 drives and they're putting up field goals or touchdowns, like, that's a problem. And so, like, for me in this game, and Spencer kind of said it there, like, my priority is positive plays on 1st and 2nd down, and I don't need chunk plays, right? Like, I don't say like, hey, I need a 50 plus 15 plus 18 plus 12. Like, no, I'll settle for +3 on 1st down. I'll settle for +2. In some instances, I'll settle for +1 so that I'm in 2nd and 9 rather than 2nd and 12. I just can't be in situations where I'm staring at a read that's not coming open and allowing the defense to tee off. I mean, a big part of that is making quick decisions, being confident, and using your legs. And I think one of the biggest reasons Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback for the Saints is how he has used his legs in this preseason to create positive gains when he's looking at something and he doesn't like it, rather than putting the ball up and putting it in danger, like, hey, let's just make something positive happen. +3 is a solid result on 1st down. If you just don't like the read, it's not open, you're just going. Like, don't stand there and stare at it and take a sack and suddenly you're in 2nd and 15, and then you have to make something happen. Like, you're going to be in situations where you're 3rd and medium, 3rd and long. It's inevitable. But the more you can avoid that, the better chance this team has to extend drives, get down into the red zone. And that's where you get aggressive. Once you get past the 50, go for it, right? But when you're on your side of the field, you just need to get a drive started. And I think, inside the building at Airline, like, that's a big topic of conversation, is kind of drilling that in. And like I said this to you yesterday on Sports Talk, like, I think that's a big reason why Spencer is a starting quarterback, is they have faith in him to do that and his ability to do that. And it's also going to be a huge factor in how long he remains the starting quarterback, right? How long can you play that way? And how long can the offense, the coaching staff, trust you to play that way? And yes, you're going to take the reins off at some point, but right now, they're on there, buddy. They're on there. You want him to play like you had Jameis playing a 5-2 start back in 2021. You want him playing like you had Teddy Bridgewater playing for that 5-game stretch in 2019. You want him playing like you had Taysom Hill playing for that 3-game stretch in 2020, right? Like, complementary winning football. Don't try to do too much. Don't take unnecessary risks. Field goals aren't the end of the world. Yes, you do want to see him finish off drives, but I'm also okay with 3 or 4 field goal drives, because it puts a number up on the board and it gives you a chance if your defense is playing well. So that's what I need to say. That's my X factor, is can Spencer play in such a way that allows a defense that I think is going to be pretty good to help you win a game.
I'm hoping he can, just to prove so many people wrong that are down on the Saints because of Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, and like I said, like I think this roster in general is not that bad. Like it really isn't. Like, yeah, could it be better in certain areas? Sure, but you have 4 first-round picks on your offensive line and a high second-round pick. Like you've invested there, right? Like you feel good about the young linebackers. The corners are a question, but they're young and they're developing. Like, okay, like I feel good about the safeties on defense. I feel good about Devon Gotcha. I feel good about the edge rushers. Hopefully Chase Young's injury isn't anything significant, right? I feel good about Alvin Kamara. Even at 30 years old, I feel good about it, right? Like I feel good about Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed if they can stay healthy. So like there's weapons, there's a defense. It's all about the quarterback. And if you can get him to, I don't need him to play at an all-pro level. I just need him to play consistently and have a higher floor than what we saw last year. So that's, to me, that's going to be the X factor for this season. And if he can do that, then he holds on to the job. If he can't, then we're going to, at some point in the near future, see if Tyler Shuck can do that.
See, I don't know about near future. I feel like we're more like towards the middle end of the year.
It depends on how he plays, right? If he plays the way that he needs to play and the coaches want him to play, then yeah, he'll hold on to that job even if things aren't going great. But if he doesn't, and he kind of reverts to what we kind of saw last year and it just doesn't seem to be going well, then yeah, I think he probably will start that clock a little earlier, but not like week 2 or week 3.
Right.
Like I think he's getting through Buffalo. As take that for what it is. But yeah, so let's switch over to the defensive side. What are your X factors on the defense?
Man, I guess whoever is tasked with guarding Trey McBride, that's definitely the biggest issue I see going against the Arizona Cardinals. We heard how much of a security blanket that he is for Kyler Murray, and just we've seen, unfortunately, in the past with this team, the issues with those dominant tight ends. And I really don't know what the game plan is at this point for McBride. I don't know if putting a linebacker on him is going to work, Jeff.
It's going to be interesting to see. I just don't know how this team's going to defend tight ends. I don't know what their strategies are going to be, what their schemes are going to be. And that's what makes this kind of week 1 X factors thing a little more difficult to nail down. Is you just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns in terms of not only how you're going to defend them, but how are they going to attack you? And does that force you to have to adjust? And Kellen Moore kind of talked about this. This is kind of relative to the defense.
Okay.
He was asked okay, there's a lot of new pieces on this team, and how are you going to adjust to them? But it's also, okay, how are you going to adjust to things that have been installed this season? And this is what he had to say.
I think you look at the scheme as a whole. Certainly you're leaning on the Arizona film. You got to recognize some of these players that have gone from other places. You got to look at them from an individual level, some of their skill set, fundamentals, those sorts of things that come up from other places. And I think the biggest thing is, there is some unknown in week 1. There's going to be stuff that happens that's not on film. That's the beauty of it. You trust your rules, you trust what you've done all off season, trust your training, and then know some adjustment football may occur during the game. And that's what the great part of what this thing is all about.
Do you guys talk about, if you get surprised by something, what the process will be, to adjust to it? Do you guys go through, coach reps or, coach, you know what I mean?
I think we just acknowledge that, there will be a couple times where we'll have to make an adjustment to a rule. And, we spend so much time through the whole offseason talking about different tools. That's what install football is about, is exposing ourselves to as many different tools, as many different schemes that we can put ourselves in, so that then we can apply them during the season. And when those present themselves, we don't always know when that comes up, but, we've exposed ourselves, they understand them, and then you can make these quick adjustments as you need to in a game to put ourselves in really good situations.
Okay, so one pet peeve of mine is the Kellen Moore's frequent use of the word their self. I don't even why themselves. Say themselves. Anyway, it's just from me trying to write quotes out, and it's that's not a word. Themselves. It should be themselves. Anyway, but no, what he's talking about there is kind of adjustments to your rules, and that's how I don't know. Maybe this is kind of inside baseball, but one of the reasons that Deuce always says hey, I need a couple weeks before I can give you a good analysis of what's going on and who's playing well. Because especially now with the new system on offense and defense, you don't know what the rules are. How do you handle protections? How do you handle coverages? If this happens, you do this. That's all established within a scheme. And sometimes those rules are kind of broken mid-game because the way the offense is attacking you, your rules don't account for it, and you got to make changes. And so that's stuff that you figure out on the fly in weeks 1 and week 2 and week 3. By week 4, you should have all that kind of nailed down, right? And that's why the first 2 weeks of the season, we saw it last year, can have some pretty big mirages where it's like, I think that team's good. And then as you go and teams adapt to what you're doing, suddenly things aren't working anymore. And can you continue to play adjustment football? And I think how you cover tight ends is a big part of that. Are you going to ask linebackers to do it? Are you going to ask the star position to take a big part of that?
Yeah.
Alontae Taylor's going to be back on the field at practice this week. Is he going to play? That's a big question. I'm sure he's going to push to play. He said that himself. Are the doctors going to let him play? He said he's well ahead of his recovery timeline. I'm sure they're going to be like, is playing in week 1 going to cost you in week 5? Right. Like that's not good for anybody. So that's going to be a question. Are you able to get him out there? But no, I think covering Trey McBride is going to be a big part of this game. Covering big receivers is going to be a big part of this game because I kind of look at Trey McBride as a big receiver,
right?
With just the way he plays. So can Kool-Aid
it's something
handle?
We haven't practiced against much.
Yeah, right. Jawan's been dealing with an injury throughout camp. You don't really have any elite tight ends other than him to throw at people. So yeah, we'll see. Either way, I think that's a big part of it. And, Alontae Taylor in general is going to be my X factor. Is he able to get out there, first of all? And how does he kind of pick up that scheme? I felt like he had a good starting camp, but now he missed a month of it. So is he a little behind? Is there rust? Because I think he's arguably the most important part of this defense for the Saints. On the Cardinals side of things, it's Budda Baker. He's a guy, they're moving around constantly. He's the disguise. He's the guy who's going to do that. And when you're on a team with a defensive head coach who's been there for 3 years, like you're not installing a ton on defense this year. You're fine tuning a lot, and you have a lot of the same pieces, and you're bringing in new guys. But like the guys like Budda Baker are your leaders who also are entrenched in that system and understand it as well as anybody. The Saints aren't in that position. So can they communicate at a high level? Are guys going to be on the same page? Or are you going to see busts? Because busts happen early in seasons, especially when you're installing a new defense. And Alontae Taylor is going to be a big part, if he's in that star role, of how that communication goes from the third level to the front. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, hoping that Alontae can suit up and play. But like you mentioned, who knows what the doctors will feel like, because, okay, great, you made it out there for week 1. They're not going to risk it if they feel like he's going to end up having a setback and end up missing, half the season because of it.
Yeah, I'm actually, watching Alontae out there, like he looked like a guy who was ready to play. And so I'd honestly be surprised if he didn't play. We'll have to wait and see. We're recording this prior to the final injury report. I would expect worst case scenario. He's doubtful, but I would expect questionable. I almost forgot what the tags are. It's been so long. The guy I'm more worried about is Chase Young.
Deuce had said on Sports Talk the other day, with Alontae at least, I'm not expecting him to be 95, 100% of the snaps, more in that 40 to 50 range.
Yeah, I could see that. And here's the thing. He's the nickel corner, so he's not going to be out there on base reps. So I take that back. Like your nickel corner doesn't have to be out there on base reps. So it is a pretty easy position to say, hey, normally we would have on base reps, you kick outside and have Ike come off the field. If you're trying to limit his reps, maybe you say, actually, when we're taking the nickel corner off the field, then we're also taking you off the field and we're leaving Ike out there. It would be a pretty easy way to just kind of ramp him back in. But I expect him to play. I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. Chase Young, as much as Kellen Moore tried to downplay it, you have a guy leave the field on Wednesday with a soft tissue injury.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you want to mess with, right? So we'll see. Like I don't think he's going to want to sit out, but you'll see calf injuries turn into Achilles injuries all the time, and that's season ending when you end up blowing out your Achilles, especially on the first year of a 3-year deal. Like this is not a 1-year prove it deal. Get out there. You have all these per game incentives. Like no, this is the first game of a 3-year. What is it? $51 million contract. Like they're gonna have a lot of motivation to play the long game if there's any concern whatsoever that this is an injury that could be a problem if you tried to play through it. So
do you know offhand on the depth chart, who's Chase Young's primary backup?
Carl.
Okay.
I mean, it would be, on the depth chart, it's Carl or Chase. So in that sense, like, it depends on how you view Cam Jordan. I think they kind of view Cam Jordan as the strong side defensive end player. So he is more the run player. So you would just kind of be replacing Chase with Carl, and Carl would end up playing 100% of snaps as opposed to however many you'd have him play. And I think on like third downs, you'd typically take Cam off the field and put Carl on the other side. So you'd have more of your pass rushing options out there. But yeah, so I think it would just mean, hey, we need Carl to step up and make a big impact. And then Chris Rumpf would be the other guy.
Yeah.
You could call up Fadil Diggs off the practice squad. I doubt they will. You probably would need one more just to make the numbers work, but that's kind of where we're at with it. So yeah, if Chase can't go, that's another major X factor. So health already is becoming a question.
Always is. And then just, I'm hoping, you mentioned the receiver health earlier, and yeah, I mean, having those targets for Spencer Rattler sure makes his job a lot easier. Yeah.
The other thing Spencer Rattler said was Devon Valet is how he told Haas is correctly to say it. It's hard to say it that way. I've been trying to trick myself into saying Valet, but I cannot get it right from Valet or Valet. Anyway, he should be out there. And Spencer did talk him up in terms of, he's learning the offense quickly. He's already kind of developing a little bit of chemistry with the quarterback. And I think a guy like that, like, you don't need a lot of time if your role is, hey, I'm going to throw you the ball up high, go get it.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a complicated route concept. So I expect he'll have a package of plays, especially in the red zone. It's where you'll look at him. Red zone, third down. Can you just get him on a quick slant? Can he box a guy out? And we just haven't seen it, but that's why you brought him in. So I don't think it's going to take long for them to work that into the game plan. And if he can take advantage of it, it's going to make his life a lot easier on third downs. He didn't have that last year at all, ever. The MVS, as big as he is, he's not a physical guy. So that is what it is. But that's all I got. You got anything else before we head out of here?
No, man. Just looking forward to Sunday already. We got football this evening. We're, like you said, we're recording this on Thursday, so the season starts tonight, and then even a game on Friday, the Brazil game.
Oh my gosh, who's in that game?
Brazil game is, let me see offhand. It's terrible. I don't know that. Kansas City and the Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Fighting Najee Harris's. I'm glad to see he's back. I did draft him in fantasy in like the 17th round. So yeah, I wonder if he'll be playing in sunglasses.
In one of my leagues, I got Pacheco late. I was happy about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I was very, very. I did not do a very good job researching the running back position this year. I had no idea. There's a lot of names out there that I'm just like, I think they might be good. I think they're still starting. Are they still playing? Are they still in the league? I don't even like Najee Harris. I was like, okay, Amari and Hampton's there. So who's going to play? It sounds like Najee's the starter. So, but again, like it's week
he had
one
the
football,
fireworks
man.
Incident, right?
Yeah. But it was his eye that he hurt. So
right. That's wild.
Which, I mean, it's not something you want to have happen, but it's also like an injury that should not affect you as a football player, if that makes sense. Like when Jason Pierre-Paul literally blew off 2 of his fingers, that affected him as a football player.
Well, I mean, vision's pretty important.
Yeah, well, exactly. I don't know how much it messed with his vision, but he at least didn't lose any body parts.
Right. Yes.
Right. I'll never forget when I was at the first game Jason Pierre-Paul played after that injury, and he just said they had to make him like custom glove. He didn't have a club. He had a custom glove. Yeah, they just put like a 3-fingered glove together, and it was just like, it looked like kind of Gumby hands. It was very, very strange. I drove down. It was the Giants versus the Bucks in Florida, and JPP went to South Florida, so it was kind of a homecoming because South Florida plays their games at Raymond James Stadium. Well, at least they did. I don't know if they still do. But yeah. So anyway, why are we talking about this?
We got
Friday, baby. Friday football.
Woohoo!
Anyway, who dat? Go Saints. We have a real football this week. Get those fantasy lineups set. And if you have any Saints players, I was able to get most of them for very cheap. So get them in there. Get them in there. Well, why not? Who's stopping you?
I drafted 0 Saints this year.
I drafted like all of them because I was able to get like Jawan Johnson in the 17th round. Everyone's been burned too many times. They're just like, I'll have to wait and see it. I actually think he's going to be a very useful fantasy player because there's no one else to throw to at the tight end position. But hey, we'll have to.
Yeah, and as much as I talked up Groupie, I didn't end up with him.
I got him in every league. I was like, I got to put my money where my mouth is. But all right, who dat? Go Saints. Busy y'all. Be back with you on Monday with our post-game episode. Check out Steve and myself starting at 8 a.m. on the pregame show to the pregame show over at the Superdome. And
get that coffee ready.
Yes, get the coffee ready. Steve will also be there with Bobby, so you can go say hi to Steve if you get there early. But all right. Thanks for listening. Busy y'all.
Crush the Cards.